Hello everyone, it's David from Automotive Press. I have my 2022 Tundra TRD Pro right behind me. But what I want to do today is talk about the future of Tundra TRD Pro or Tundra in general. Because usually Toyota runs in a sort of a 12 to 13 year cycle, maybe even 14 years in some cases for trucks and SUVs. I suspect that the facelift version of the Tundra will come out in about 6 to 7 years time. So let's say 2027 timeframe for 2028 model year, we can expect to see a facelifted Tundra with some modification changes, and that would be really exciting. So let's talk about the future of Tundra and what Toyota might do to make the thing better in 2027. Let's go. Now, before we talk about the facelifted Toyota Tundra, which should come out in 2027 calendar year for 2028 model year, don't forget that Toyota is going to introduce the Trail Hunter version of the Tundra sometime this year. We have already seen a pre-production version of this, and we are quite excited because this one promises extreme overlanding and extreme off-roading in a way that was not possible before from Tundra. And so that is all coming down sometime this year in 2023. But of course, the big news is the facelift version that should come out sometime in 2027/2028. So let's get back into talking about the future of Tundra, which really is very exciting. Welcome back. So would the Tundra be improved in 4 or 5 or 6 years time when they facelift this model? I actually really do think so, because Toyota practices what they call the Toyota production system or Toyota way, which is part of a continuous improvement process. And I can just imagine Toyota making a whole bunch of changes to make this Tundra even better than before. Now, to be really honest, I'm pretty happy with the Tundra as an owner, and I've been really enjoying driving this TRD Pro, but there are some frustrations and things that I really want to change. So I hope those things will be addressed in about 6 years' time. Once again, I predict that the facelifted version of the Tundra will come out in 2027 or 2028, and they should be making all kinds of changes to take into account the feedback from customers like ourselves, but also among themselves, because they would know what is working and what's not working with the Tundra. So let's start with the front of the truck, and let's try to predict together what Toyota might change. Now, I do admit that most people are not too crazy about this huge grille, which is on purpose, right? Because they want to give that presence and a big truck feel. But if you compare this to the front design of the Sequoia, which has a smaller size and a little bit slimmer looking, we all think that the Sequoia has a better design in the front than the Tundra. So my prediction is, because typically Toyota will make changes to the front grille and sometimes even the size of the grille for a facelift model, I think Toyota might change this one to make it a little bit smaller. I'm not quite sure about that one, but that would be my actually request from Toyota, that in the facelift version, please make the grille a little bit smaller to make it look more like the Sequoia version, which I think looks a lot better. And you can still have the big lettering like Toyota like this for the TRD Pro, and I don't mind this large diamond-shaped opening. That's all okay, but let's make the front a little bit slimmer and a little bit easier to appreciate compared to the model we have right now. Now, things like the fog lamp and things like the headlamps usually do not change for facelift model, because it's expensive to change the headlight design. This is perhaps one of the most expensive part of the front end. So most likely they'll keep that. They'll keep the intercooler intake, stuff like that, which is all engineering related, so they don't want the big changes. But otherwise, the front of the truck will probably remain the same. I'm not too crazy about this plasticky looking thing here. And as you probably know from my previous video, the letter D was flipped upside down on that side actually of my truck. So they had to ship a new one and replace it. So that defect was really surprising. But regardless of that situation, I actually think this whole thing looks a little bit cheap, even though I like the concept of having this emblem or this decal on the top of the hood. But at least I want Toyota to change the design of this emblem right here, because it looks a little bit plasticky and looks a little bit cheap. Maybe change the color or make it into a dark gray color or something like that. And possibly maybe even eliminate this altogether and do something, once again, more like a Sequoia, which has a smaller emblem on the side. Either way, they probably won't make too much changes here, because if you change the actual design of the hood, then you have to change the stamping, which is more expensive. So I expect most likely this will remain the same, but they might change the shape or design of this emblem right here. All the other stuff probably won't change. I don't really like this camouflage design. To be honest, I think it looks a little bit cheap. Most people are not too crazy about it either. So I would expect, or I would want Toyota to change the design of this camouflage, give it a little bit more of a real camouflage feel. This is too much like fake looking right now. They call it digital camouflage or digital art, and I'm not too crazy about the design. So maybe they can enhance that look and feel. I'm actually very happy with the tire, the choice of tire that Toyota did, which is a Falcon Wild Peak AT3W. And this one is pretty good off-road tire, but actually very comfortable in both city and highway. So I hope they don't change the tires. Maybe they can give us an improved version of the Wild Peak, because they do often change tires around. So maybe that will change for the Tundra TRD Pro. But either way, I'm happy with it. So I hope they'll keep the Falcon tire lineup for the 2028 Tundra. And then they usually change the wheel design. So this will for sure change over the next several years. In fact, wheels are something that Toyota changes quite often. So even before 2027 and 2028, they might change the design of the wheel to just give it a bit of an enhanced look and a fresh view. Suspension, which is a Fox suspension on my TRD Pro, has been absolutely excellent. In fact, I have been extremely happy with the comfort, the drivability, and ability to take bumps with this Fox suspension. So for the refresh model, they will probably upgrade it to either make it a little bit stiffer or a little bit more accommodating in terms of road conditions. But I suspect, at least for a TRD Pro, that they'll keep the Fox suspension, but maybe revise the calibration or change it. That's what they often do during the refresh. All these side panels, these panels will not change, because once again, it's really expensive to change the panel and the shape, because then you have to change the stamping, the body shop, equipment and so forth. So these should all stay the same, but sometimes they'll change the contrasting colors. So right now we have a black pillar, and part of the A-pillar is also black but white roof. But who knows, maybe in the refresh model they'll paint the roof black, which is a kind of trend these days even for trucks. And maybe from here above it could be black roof and the rest could be the body paint. That would be kind of cool, I think. So they'll make some minor changes. Things like a door handle won't change. Maybe the color will change, but the shape won't change, because once again, it costs too much money to make that change during a facelift models. In terms of the back, same thing. This will all stay the same, so same flared look as the current model. Once again, I hope they'll change the digital camouflage pattern on this one, because it doesn't look good. The tail lamp is an interesting one. They do often change the tail lamp design for refresh model. They don't usually make the headlight change, but they do make the tail lamp change because it's a little bit easier and cheaper to do that. Right now we got the vertical slot right here, but maybe that will become either horizontal lines, or who knows, maybe even they might have one big horizontal light that goes across, which is a current trend in trucks and SUVs. And so that would be a really cool change if they have, let's say, a new tail lamp design, and then from here to that side they have one continuous strip, either here or at this level, that lights up, maybe lights up TRD Pro or something. I think that might be a real cool design, and it's also a very possible design change. Stamping of the TRD Pro on tail lamps, sometimes they'll change that, so maybe they'll go back and put the TRD Pro on the side, which would be cool, because I actually really liked it on the older Tundra, where the TRD Pro was stamped on the side panel instead of a tailgate. These sections here usually do not change too much, but I really wish that they would change this part right here to incorporate a step to be able to walk into the pickup bed. Right now I've got this optional equipment, which is you just kick it, this comes down, but it's really awkward. And when most other manufacturers are offering a built-in step, I don't know why Toyota didn't do it for 2022 and 2023 models, but that is very important request. Toyota, please change it so that we can have a built-in step instead of an optional accessory that you have to pay, and this is not cheap at all. The tailgate has been a very simple solution for Toyota. So this is just a one piece. It is pretty light and easy to operate, but unlike GM or Ford, it doesn't have a multi-tailgate. Now for Toyota, I think this is simply because sometimes having a more simple product is easier to build, cheaper and more reliable, and perhaps most people don't use or don't need that multi-tiered tailgate. But I suspect in the facelift, just because the competition is doing this, they might change the tailgate and give us at least one more tier level. I don't need two levels, but give me one more drop down tier so you can possibly step on that or use it to set down, that kind of stuff. So the tailgate should be improved, because right now it's too simple and it doesn't compete well with the trucks from GM and Ford. I'm sure they'll keep the same size pickup bed size, which is a composite bed. They won't make any changes in terms of shape or the material of the pickup bed. That's too expensive to do that. Now this is an optional tonneau cover I bought, which is an OEM product, and that often do change, not just because of refresh, but they will make changes and improvements throughout life cycles. So these designs can be changed year after year even, because the tonneau cover is always one of the shortcomings of a truck, because they're heavy and awkward to open and close, but we still need them to protect the contents inside. So that's the back end of the truck. Anything else in terms of the outside? Not much. Sometimes they'll make a change in terms of the rear light here, and things like maybe the shape of the radio antenna might change. This window still opens all the way down, which is amazing. It's one of the most unique and the best features of the Tundra that competitors don't have, so they won't make any changes to that. Everything works good. It also has electric defroster, and therefore no problem with snow or fogging. So those are all really good designs that they will keep and not change for a refresh year. Let's take a look inside to see what else they might change. Now the current Tundra TRD Pro has a really good balanced feel and actually pretty good handling for a truck, and it also feels quite agile. So they don't need to make too many changes in terms of the steering feel, the steering mechanism, or as I mentioned earlier, suspension changes. So those are all really pretty solid key points for Tundra, especially my Tundra TRD Pro. So let's see what happens with that in the facelift time. If they can make it a little bit maybe smoother, because it does get a little bit bumpy over some rough road, but that's about all they have to do, and we're good to go in terms of the next facelift Tundra TRD Pro. So now I'm inside my Tundra TRD Pro, and this is perhaps the best part of the Tundra compared to the predecessor, because they made so many changes that it's almost impossible to compare this one with the previous version, especially the 14-inch display, the beautiful buttons, and the full digital instrumentation, and the big panorama roof. It's a huge add for 2022 Tundra, and those are all the things I love. But at the same time, if you recall from some of my previous videos, I wasn't too crazy about a number of things, including flimsy center console tray, some squeaks and rattles. You can hear some squeaks a little bit around here as well, and also this wireless charger, which is one of the biggest complaints that everyone has been talking about, is too far, and then you gotta place the phone just right to get it to charge. So this is kind of awkward. This whole center console is a bit awkward, but we're very happy with full digital instrumentation, and we're very happy with the 14-inch display here for infotainment system, and the buttons are fine. So what would they change or improve for 2028 Tundra? Well, obviously some of the physical things will stay the same. So the 14-inch display wouldn't change. They wouldn't change all this dash and buttons, because that would require major modification in the equipment. But the software will change. So I expect they will make that huge improvement here. But even before 2028, they will probably continue to improve the software, because this is something they'll need to keep updating to be competitive with others. They will probably make some changes to the digital instrumentation. Right now it's a little bit limited in terms of how you can customize it, and while it's pretty quick and easy to see, I find that it's not as configurable as what we find in competitors. So I can easily see Toyota making some changes, maybe even making a bigger instrumentation for 2028, but certainly the software will change. The other thing that I really want to see it change, but I'm not sure if they will make the modification, is once again the center console here. They'll need to make some improvements here. These are all very flimsy, loud, slippery, so they'll have to make some changes to the actual center console design, especially these trays. But in terms of the inside, usually these things are pretty bulletproof in terms of design, so this is totally fine. Maybe I can see them adding additional USB slots, or maybe removing the USB-A and changing it to USB-C. That kind of stuff likely will happen. The other big thing is the fact that the Tundra does not come with automatic four-wheel drive. That's one of the biggest missing key feature from my perspective on the Tundra TRD Pro. I know that they did that to, one, reduce the cost, two, to simplify things, and thirdly, simply because a lot of people probably don't really need it for the most part. But for me, living in the west coast of Canada, where it snows a little bit here and there, it's a hassle to have to switch this back and forth between two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, because sometimes we're driving on the dry pavement and sometimes on the wet or slippery conditions. So that would be my biggest request from Toyota for the 2028 Tundra, is to add or at least make it optional and available automatic four-wheel drive, so I can leave it in four-wheel mode and then drive without having to switch back and forth between two-wheel and four-wheel drive. So hopefully that will happen. I have my doubt on it because Toyota tends to focus on cost reduction and cost containment, so they won't usually add expensive items, but if enough people ask for it or complain about it, they will probably make that available. So that's something that I hope will happen for 2028 Tundra. Otherwise, in terms of mechanical things, they usually don't make too many changes. So this kind of shifter and how the drive mode works probably won't change. They'll probably enhance the software once again. So how the drive mode affects the driving character, maybe that needs to be improved, because right now when you put this in sport mode, for example, there's not a lot of change in terms of driving feel. In fact, it's almost the same, except the exhaust gets a little bit louder. So they'll have to work on that a little bit more and give us a more distinct feel among all of the driving modes. Typically speaking, in the refresh model, they do make a lot of changes with the materials. So right now I have a Tundra TRD Pro, so I have the Softex, or what we call the fake leather, both in the dash and also the seats, and I actually like it a lot. It feels comfortable, it's pretty durable, but the seat design, the pattern of the actual materials, as well as the color, will change quite dramatically during the facelift. So they'll probably make an actual change in terms of not so much the shape of the seat, but the material itself, the pattern of the seat, and even some of this logo might change. Who knows, this TRD Pro might come over here, which is sometimes a cool effect. And they will give a lot more different color options. And so maybe this will be a different color or maybe even different material. And those are things that we can look forward to, because we do want both color and materials to refresh. And that obviously includes the exterior colors, which change actually from year to year. But during the refresh model, such as the 2028 Tundra, they'll introduce possibly new colors, which will be trendy at the time. So we can look forward to some interesting color in about 5 or 6 years' time. Other things that most likely they will not change will be this panorama roof, which is beautiful. It's really wide and really big. It goes right to the edge, works wonderful. It's fast and it's beautifully designed. So they'll keep that obviously, and they won't make any change because you don't need to make any change. And all the minor stuff like the grab handles and the buttons overhead, those things don't usually change during the refresh model. They also will not make a change in terms of the size of the interior. So the rear space and the front space will remain the same. Headroom, that kind of stuff really won't change. So they don't usually tinker with thickness of the seat or the cushion to try to adjust the volume of the interior. So those things will not change for refresh. Finally, they'll make lots of changes in terms of the configuration, trim options, and features. So in terms of what standard equipment you get, will change not only year to year, but particularly during the facelift year. And because the facelift is most likely in 2027 or 2028, some 5 or 6 years down the road, they'll have to keep on adding new features to attract the customers to come back. So you can expect the refreshed Tundra, let's say if it was a 2028 model year, to have even more features than the previous years, because they'll just have to keep on adding more and more things to make sure that people are still interested in this model. Finally, the most important part to talk about is the powertrain, which is engine and transmission. Typically speaking, they do not make any major changes to powertrain for refresh years. So I expect Tundra to keep the 3.4-liter twin-turbo V6 for the normal lineup, and then for the hybrid model such as the Tundra TRD Pro to still retain the 3.4 twin-turbo V6 with a hybrid mechanism. Sometimes they'll tweak the powertrain to give a little bit more power or torque. So that's always possible, maybe 5 or 10 more horsepower or 5 or 10 foot-pounds of torque compared to the previous model. That's all possible. But surprisingly, Toyota does not make too many powertrain changes, which might beg you a question. Well, what the heck is happening with, let's say, a prime model like a plug-in hybrid or even a fully electric Tundra? Well, Toyota is actually not that crazy about having a fully electric full-size truck. Akio Toyota has always said that he would prefer to see smaller vehicles to be fully electric, and that it doesn't often make sense to have a big model like this one to be 100% electric, because you have to have such a huge battery to maintain good range, and a huge battery weighs a lot more, so you're kind of offsetting advantage of a fully electric model if it gets so heavy. So I do not expect to have a plug-in hybrid or fully electric version of Tundra in 2027 or 2028. But of course, you never know. There could always be surprises. I would think that when all new model Tundra comes out in 13 years or 14 years time, then we can expect a fully electric model, maybe a plug-in hybrid, and who knows, maybe by that time the gasoline models will be out altogether. So that's always possible. But for the facelift model as a 2028 Tundra, I don't think they will make major changes to the powertrain. So same engine, same 10-speed I-Shin automatic transmission, which is a fantastic transmission, and similar suspension. So mechanically speaking, I don't expect a lot of change. It'll be wonderful if Toyota can give us a plug-in hybrid version of the Tundra. That'll be really beautiful, beautiful change, but don't hold your breath because I don't think that's going to happen. So those are some of the things I expect to take place in 2027 for a 2028 Tundra or Tundra TRD Pro. In this case, obviously all these things are speculation, and these are just my professional opinion and not anything official from Toyota. Plus, it's still many years away, so who knows? In the next 4 to 5 years, even Toyota can change their mind as to what kind of changes they want to incorporate, because I expect that it'll take about 2 to 3 years to incorporate facelift changes for a new model, so they don't actually have to start working on it until another 3 years down the road, and who knows what the auto industry might be facing at that time. So lots of interesting things that we can speculate in terms of how the Tundra can improve over time until such time that it could be perhaps one of the best trucks out there. I'm very happy as an owner of the Tundra TRD Pro. Lots of things I really like about the truck. Some frustrations here and there, which I'm sure will be taken care of in a few years. But for now, I'm enjoying the truck, and I'll continue to use it for both fishing trips that I have, as well as using it as a daily driver. So that's my big summary for a 2028 Tundra. What do you guys think, or what do you want to see changes? And perhaps we can all give these feedback to Toyota. So hopefully in a couple of years, they can incorporate these things and make this Tundra one of the best trucks in the world. If you can give me a thumbs up, make some comments, I would truly appreciate it. But until next video, I'm signing off for now. Thank you so much.